afternoon, Yeladim, and welcome back to more Children's Torah Stories. David has finally won the war against Avshalom. Hooray! He is the hero. Come up. And Yoav led the army that went and smashed Avshalom. But David is so sad, actually. He's not happy that he won. That is David. David is not happy that he won. He's sad that his son Avshalom is no more. And that's what he's so upset about.
I wanted for that policeman.
What do you want? The policeman, the plishtim. Yes, that's fine. Well, David is now coming back from the war, coming back from having fought against Avshalom, and he is the king, and he's trying to decide. Oh, you've taken David. And he's trying to decide what should happen. Well, the one thing that he said, do you remember that Avshalom had someone who was the boss of his army? The boss of Avshalom's army was, can I have the giraffe, please? Was Yoav's cousin, Amasa. Amasa was the boss of Avshalom's army. Well, even though Amasa and his army lost against Yoav, David still decided, you must listen to my story, my boy. David still decided that he would actually make Amasa the boss of his army. Amasa, will you please be the boss of my army? Oh, wow. But David, I fought against you. Why do you want me to be the boss of your army if Yeladim, you can't do grabbing now. You've got to listen to my stories. You can grab as much as you like afterwards. Why do you want me to be the boss of your army? I was fighting against you. It's true that you were fighting against me, but a lot of people followed you, and a lot of people were on your side. And so, I think that we can show that we care about everyone, and that we want to help the whole Jewish people together. So because of that, will you be the boss of my army? Yes, I will. I will be delighted. Thank you, David. Well, that sounds all well and good. Can I have your Av, please? That sounds all well and good. But what do you think your Av thought about this?
What? David doesn't want me to be the boss of his army anymore. I was the one who saved him so many times. I was the one who led the army against Avshalom. I was the one who made sure that he could stay the king. And now he says, I'm not going to be the boss of his army, that Amasa is going to be the boss of his army instead. I don't think so. Whew. Yoav is not a happy chappy, Yeladim, because Yoav wants to stay the boss of the army. But you know why David doesn't want him to be the boss anymore? One reason is because David wants Amasa to be more involved so that the whole Jewish people will realize David cares about everyone, not just his friends. But the other reason is because David knows that Yoav was the one who fought Avshalom and made sure that Avshalom didn't survive. Even though David wanted Avshalom to be okay, Yoav was the one who decided to hurt Avshalom. And David knew that that was Yoav's decision. And it was because of that David wanted Yoav taken away from being the boss of the army. Well, I understand why Yoav did it. Because Avshalom actually was David's enemy. Avshalom actually was going to stop David from being the king. Yoav made a tough decision to get rid of Avshalom once and for all. But that wasn't what David wanted. David didn't want a tough decision to stay the king.
David wanted his own son to be okay. So because of that, David and Yoav aren't so much together in the same way that they used to be. When we started off, David and Yoav were like two fingers on the same hand. They were working together beautifully. Okay, but then you must listen nicely. They were working together beautifully. They were being best of friends. They were always going in the right direction. But now, David and Yoav, not so sure. And that's why David has said that Yoav, you're not going to be the boss of my army anymore. Amasa is going to be the boss of my army instead. So that is what happened. That Amasa became the new boss of the army. And Amasa said, David, I will bring back all the people who were against you. All the people who are on Avshalom's side will come back to being on your side again. And that was really a good way for them all to start coming, except, as I mentioned, because Yoav is still very cross. Well, in the meantime, there's one more guy that we learned about earlier, and that was Shimi ben Gera. Now, I don't know if you remember what Shimi ben Gera did. Do any of you remember what Shimi did, Yeladim, when David had to run away from Yerushalayim because Avshalom was coming? Do any of you remember? David and his guys were leaving. Oh, they were all crying. We have to go from Yerushalayim. We have to leave. And along came Shimi. You are the worst, David. You are terrible. You are a criminal. Hashem is punishing you. You should never have been the king. All those things. And remember, Yoav said, I'm going to go grab him and put him in jail. And David said, no, don't hurt Shimi. Don't go hurt Shimi. Well, as they're coming back, David has won the war. David is again the king of Israel. And Shimi starts running down. Oh, David, I'm so glad you're safe. Baruch Hashem, that Hashem took care of you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for the bad things that I said to you, David. I was just being silly, but I was wrong. But I was wrong, and I said bad things. Please don't be cross with me. Please let me just stay in my home and don't put me in jail for being so rude to you. Well, Avishai, that's Yoav's brother, Avishai said, no, David, you mustn't let him go. He came and shouted at you. He was rude. He was bad to the king. You cannot get away. Sorry for shouting in your ear. You cannot get away with being bad to the king. If you are bad to the king, you must go to jail. What should I do? Let me ask the Yeladim. That isn't really what David said, but I'm going to ask you. Let me ask the Yeladim, what should David do? Shimi was so rude to him and so bad and said, you're the worst. Hashem hates you. You should go to jail. Hashem doesn't want you to be the king anymore. And now that David won, Shimi's saying, oh, I'm sorry. I never meant it. Please don't punish me. What should David do? Give me a thumbs up if David should let Shimi go free and say, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Give me a thumbs down if he should say, Shimi must go to jail. So what do you say? I'm seeing mostly thumbs up. I'm seeing some thumbs down. Well, David said, Shimi, I have decided that you will not go to jail. Oh, thank you, David. Thank you. David said, it's fine. I'm not going to punish Shimi. I promise you, Shimi, I will let you live. What we're going to see later on is that David is still going to say to his son, who will be the king one day after him, Shlomo, David's going to say to his son Shlomo, don't forget about Shimei. Shimei's a bad guy. You got to keep your eyes on him. So David didn't just think, oh, Shimei's fine, I must never worry about him again. He knew that Shimei was a bad guy. But he said, Shimei, I'm not going to put you in jail today. And especially because David was thinking, all the Jewish people have been fighting, David versus Absalom and the two different armies. This is not the right time to do more fighting and more fighting. This is a time for us to be in peace with one another and kind to each other. That's why. Now, I don't know if you remember the story of Mephibosheth and Siva. Sorry, do you have the wolf, please? We have two other people that we have to thank you, that we have to hear their story, and that is Mephibosheth and Siva. Now, if you'll remember, Mephibosheth was Jonathan's son. Remember, David and Jonathan were best friends. Well, Jonathan, even though he died fighting against the Plishtim, Jonathan had a son called Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth couldn't walk. He was disabled. And so he found it very hard to get around. And there was a man who worked for him called Siva. And David had Siva put in charge of taking care of everything for Mephibosheth. Well, while David was coming back home, Siva came running up to him. David, yes, Siva, I'm so glad that you are back. You can't believe it. Mephibosheth took Absalom's side. What? Mephibosheth wanted Absalom to win, not you. How could that be? I've been so good to Mephibosheth. I helped him. I invited him for lunch all the time. I said he can be like part of my family. Are you serious that Mephibosheth wanted me to lose? Yes. Mephibosheth wanted Absalom to win and he wanted David to lose. But I said to him, no, Mephibosheth, we must be on David's side. He has been so good to us. Wow, Siva, you have been so good to me, even though I'm so sad that Mephibosheth was bad to me. Do you know what I say? Mephibosheth has a big farm. I say we must chop that farm in half. Half for Mephibosheth and half for Siva. What do you think of that, Yeladim? Do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea? Show me thumbs up for good idea, thumbs down for bad idea. You thinking maybe good idea, maybe not sure. Well, let me tell you the first problem over here. The first problem is, how do you even know that Siva's telling the truth? Maybe Siva's just making up lies, bad stories about Mephibosheth. Maybe Mephibosheth wasn't on Absalom's side. Well, actually, what happens the next minute is Mephibosheth comes along. Slowly. Remember, he can't walk nicely. David, you're back. I'm so happy. Give me a hug. Mephibosheth, what do you mean? What do you mean, what do I mean? I'm so happy that you are back home and safe. What? Do you mean that you're on my side? Of course I'm on your side. Who else's side would I be on? You're my dad's best friend. You've been so good to me. You always took care of me. Of course I'm on your side. But Siva said that you were on Absalom's side. That's not true. Siva is lying. Oh, now I don't know who to believe. Should I chop up the farm in half and give half to Siva? Or should I leave it all with Mephibosheth? I already told Siva I'll give him half, so I'm giving him half your farm. Oh, okay. I mean, that's fine. As long as you're okay, David, that's the most important thing. Well, here's the problem, Yeladim, is that David actually listened to Lashon Hara. Siva was telling him Lashon Hara about Mephibosheth, and because of that, he ended up listening to Tzeva and chopping up Mephibosheth's field. Well, that was not a great idea. But in the end, they were all coming back to Yerushalayim. And even though there were some people who were still cross with David, David was working hard to make sure that the Jewish people would be together, that everything would be okay. Yoav was still cross. There were some other people who were still cross. But we'll hear more about them next time. Bye!